Hello and welcome to this history tutorial on opposition to the Nazi regime. This is for Edexcel GCSE Weimar and Nazi Germany. Today we will cover the extent of the support for the Nazi regime with a focus on opposition from the church and the role of Pastor Martin Neumeier. We'll also be looking at opposition from youth groups including the Swing Youth and the Edelweiss Pirates. One area of opposition in Nazi Germany came from the church, even though Hitler and the Nazis tried to control religion in Germany. In 1933, a group of Protestant pastors, including Martin Neumeier, set up the Pastors' Emergency League. They opposed the creation of one national German Christian church and Nazi attempts to stop Jews becoming Christians and to ban the Jewish Old Testament from Christian teaching. In 1934, the Pastors' Emergency League set up the Confessing Church. This new church opposed Nazi interference in the running of their church and directly opposed the Right Church, which accepted Nazi interference. About 2,000 Protestant pastors remained in the German Christian Church, but about 6,000 joined the Confessing Church. Some pastors spoke out against the Nazis, and about 800 were arrested and sent to concentration camps. Some Catholic priests also spoke out against Nazi ideas and policies. Around 400 Catholic priests were eventually imprisoned at Dachau concentration camp. One Protestant pastor in particular, Martin Neumeier, opposed Nazi interference in the running of the Protestant church. He was a founder of the Pastors' Emergency League in 1933 and the Confessing Church in 1934. Although he hadn't always been completely opposed to the Nazis, in 1934 Neumeier discovered that as a critic of the Nazis, his telephone had been bugged by the Gestapo. He began to realise that the Nazi regime was a dictatorship which should be opposed. He spoke out against them more and more, opposing their policies. As a result, he was repeatedly arrested between 1934 and 1937. In 1937 he was charged with treasonable statements and was imprisoned in concentration camps until the end of the war in 1945. As well as from the church, there was also opposition from youth groups in Nazi Germany, such as the Edelweiss Pirates and the Swing Youth. The Edelweiss Pirates emerged in working-class districts of big German cities. The pirates were made up of teenagers, both boys and girls, but mainly boys who resented the military discipline of the Nazi youth groups and the general lack of freedom in Nazi Germany. Feeling it was their own freedom to choose, the boys wore their hair longer and copied American styles of clothing. In cities, they hung around on street corners and would taunt and sometimes attack members of the Hitler Youth. To break away from Nazi restrictions, they went on long hikes in the countryside, sang parodies of Hitler Youth songs and told jokes, sometimes mocking the Nazis. Up to 1939, the opposition of the Edelweiss Pirates was limited. It was only after 1939 that some Edelweiss Pirates began to make physical attacks against the government. The Swing Youth were mainly teenagers from the wealthy middle-class families located in big towns like Berlin. They admired American culture such as American clothes, films and especially music. They played records that were illegally imported from America, with their favourites being the swing bands like the Glenn Miller Orchestra. They liked to gather together, usually drinking alcohol and smoking, to listen to music and dance in groups. Gradually they began to organise illegal dances. These were attended by up to 6,000 young people. Up to 1939 the opposition of the Swing Youth was limited, as they did little to actually oppose the Nazis, but did resist Nazi expectations. In summary, there was opposition to the Nazi regime from the church and youth groups like the Swing Youth and the Edelweiss Pirates. Church opposition was limited, however, as the Protestant church became divided between the Right Church and the Confessing Church, and originally the Catholic Church had made an agreement, a concordat, with Hitler. Although there was some opposition from youth groups, it was mainly as they were resisting Nazi expectations rather than active opposition to the regime. To get further help, visit history.outwood.com, see your teacher in school, or check out quiz.outwood.com for those sweet revision quizzes. You can also follow the Outwood Humanities team on Twitter at @OGATHumanities. Until next time, that was a little bit of history.